22 was my first official rock bottom. Drinking and driving, like, and I did many times. Blacked out, packed. I ended up hitting like 5 parked cars, but I was trying to tell myself it was normal. At my worst, I was 300 pounds. Working, digging in a hole, and like on the inside, I'm screaming, "Holy fuck, I'm dying, I'm dying, I'm dying!" And the mental warfare that went inside my head on a daily basis for, I would say a better part of a decade. And then that was the moment where, it's what I call today the Primal Mindset, because there was something in me where I was like, you know what? Okay, I ran 5 minutes today, I'm gonna run fucking 6 minutes tomorrow. And it was just something inside my head where like I'm gonna get better no matter what. And I developed a short memory, didn't give a fuck what happened the day before. And it was this mantra I developed that I still use today, man. It was just like, I wake up today, I go today, and that was it.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Burn Down Podcast. In the studio, we have Chris Fontana, the founder of Go Primal and the host of the Primal Mindset show. Chris, what's going on, man? Welcome to the Burn Down.
Guys, what's going on? Thank you for having me.
Hey.
Well, we appreciate you coming into the studio. I know you're local.
Yeah.
You're local here, so thank you for driving out and joining us here on the show.
Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely.
And we appreciate he comes bearing gifts.
Yeah.
We always love guests that come with gifts.
I love guests that come bearing gifts. So
Future guests,
Yeah.
be aware.
He hooked us up with.
Yeah.
Let's see. Bang. So I'll show you the one. I got the gray one. I nabbed the gray one because.
So for the people listening, he gave us black and gray Go Primal hoodies. It's Go Primal with a nice lion on it, and it says "Trust your instincts."
Yeah. I love it, man. So appreciate that. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you for the cigar, man.
No, well, you're very welcome. Hopefully you like that. So they're both smoking the Blueprint. I'm smoking the new Connecticut that's coming out April 1st.
I can't wait to not call it the new Connecticut anymore.
I know it's tough. I mean, you got to be careful.
Yeah.
You can't let people know too much.
That's it.
You got to keep them wanting more. You got to keep them guessing.
So we got Chris here. This is our first time meeting. We've talked on Instagram a few times, but
we go way back, don't we? Haven't we been talking for a while?
Yeah, I would say
like a year or so. Yeah.
Just things never kind of lined up.
You get so many. I told Chris before. I appreciate him. Being on top of things, being in sales. So it's always be good to be consistent and be diligent because, just things fall out of place. People message you, and then you get dragged over here, and you forget, and then you get another 10 messages, and things fall through the cracks. So thank you for coming.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about who Chris Fontana is, what Go Primal is. Your story. You have a very interesting story from what you told me, and I want to hear more about it. So please, by all means.
Grew up in West Islip. Born and raised Long Island, and God willing, I'll be here. The rest of my life. Love it here. So had a great childhood. My grandparents had a house right on the Great South Bay, so you basically look out the window, you see the bridge. So being around water has always given me, that good feeling, especially, I love the bridge. Any pictures of the Robert Moses Bridge, warms my heart a little bit. But
you had that view almost every day at your grandparents, huh?
Yeah. That's a hell of a view. A lot of people, they don't realize that, New York, they think of bridges.
Yeah.
The first thing they think of is, the
George
Brooklyn Bridge, George Washington Drive. It's like, no. We're talking about Long Island bridges. Like, yes, there are some bridges out there. Okay.
Yes, sir. You go for fishing, too.
Nice bridge right over the water, going to the beaches and stuff like that. So it was, a great childhood. Growing up, boating, snorkeling, crabbing, tubing,
the typical Long Island kid.
Yeah. So it was great. And then, unfortunately, at the age of 13, my dad passed away. He, got cancer. He was only 42, which... now being 44, I was like, holy shit, man, he was fucking young. Like you don't realize it when you're little. To him, he was always old. So yeah, he passed away at 13. And
what kind of cancer did your father have?
He had it right. It was right where the esophagus kind of meets the stomach.
Wow.
So yeah, and it's, I can't really remember the time frame too much, but it seemed like it was pretty quick from when we found out to he had the surgery. So it looked like he was going to get better, and then he got sick again. Wow. So it was kind of like emotional,
man, fuck cancer.
Yeah,
fuck cancer. My mom had cancer too. And luckily she survived, but she had cancer.
Yeah, it's tough, man.
Fuck cancer.
It's I still remember seeing him in the hospital at the end where he didn't know we were even there. So to to be able to, see that, burned in kind of a 13-year-old kid's mind, man.
Yeah, that's a tough age.
That's a tough one because he was, he was a big guy, man. He was my Superman.
And 13, you're like your brain is so like malleable, and you get so you have like that's like the age where you start actually remembering a lot of things. Like if you were maybe like 7, 8, wouldn't be so as clear,
right,
but 13
was
you forget.
13 you start understanding stuff too, which
it was it was the summer or just about the end of 8th grade. So then that summer I went into high school. So that's a tough age to not have your dad around. So going through high school was, still okay. It's still familiar setting. Still have my friends who I grew up with. Still had family around. Still in West Islip. And but
now, do you have any siblings?
Yeah, I have an older brother. He actually,
how was it on him? Because I imagine being the older brother, he had to kind of fill the role.
It's funny. I mean, we never really talk about shit, as a family, which is kind of, I guess, weird. But
no, it's not. My family's kind of the same way.
Yeah, he was about to graduate high school, so my dad didn't even see him graduate high school. He went off to college. I was, 8th grade, moving up into high school. My dad didn't even get to see me go through high school, and I had a sister who was about to graduate, the 6th grade or whatever, and go to middle school, so he didn't even get to see any of that, So he, looking back now, especially with young kids, I'm like, fuck, man, he missed out on a lot of shit.
Yeah, his life was just getting started.
Yeah, so he, my brother, I believe that had to be the hardest on all of us. You're going away to college, because I know 4 years later when I went away to college, it was hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't imagine losing, your dad, and then all of a sudden you got to go away to college, and then.
And I'll bet the thought of, now I'm like the man of the house. Yeah. Should I even go to college, right? Like, my mother and my siblings might need me to stay home, so I'm sure he probably battled, as did you, that question of should I stay home or should I go away? Or
yeah, I mean that had to be tough on him, and he was a very smart guy.
How much older?
He's 4 years older.
4 years older.
So we were basically just missed each other in high school.
Oh, so he couldn't be like he couldn't be the bully stopper.
No, but he had. I still knew people in through basketball because I played basketball. He played basketball. People knew me as Little Fonz because of him. So I never had issues with that in high school as far as that goes. But yeah, it would have been cool to kind of be maybe around him a little bit more during those times. But because he went away to school and then he graduated. Like he basically never came home. He just he was pretty successful and wanted to do well. Like he moved away. I mean, he lived in Brooklyn, not too far away, so it wasn't like
but it's still not. You don't come home every single day and see him.
So he wasn't there. So it was, you didn't really have any grown father figure or any like older male role model there. Through high school, and again, it wasn't like I had really too much of a tough time in high school. But I did know I never talked about shit, so things were kind of like going on inside my head. I noticed a big chip on my shoulder starting to develop, because now I'm playing high school sports. My dad's not in the stands watching me play, and that was like a big thing. I remember going to the varsity games. I was in 8th grade, 7th grade, whatever. My brother played varsity, and like when you see it as a young kid, you're like, holy shit, everyone's packed in the gym. This is sick. They have announcers. I'm like, man, I can't wait to play like this, man. And to see my dad see me, but unfortunately, it never happened. But I noticed I was definitely getting a chip on my shoulder, and never really had issues with drinking at all in high school. I was, didn't start drinking until I was probably around 16 or so. Typical hang out on the
high
weekends.
Schooler,
drinking in the parking lot or the fields and whatnot.
People have parties. You do that. You're playing sports, and then you go to the parties and shit like that. So it was never, you get drunk, but it was just beer. It wasn't hard liquor. I never really did drugs or anything like that. So I think it wasn't really an issue until I went away to college. I think that's when things really started to take a dive, and
college will escalate the drinking for sure.
It was like I said, I went away, and that chip on my shoulder started getting bigger because I had 3 other roommates. All of them had their parents there, their dads were there, and I was actually, I was going to, it was a small school, D3, Mary Washington in Virginia, and I was
Did you play ball there too?
I was gonna actually play baseball Baseball was probably my best sport. And I went there, and things didn't really work out. I remember going there, and like they would have tryouts. It was basically like scrimmages. And I remember being in the field, nothing got hit to me. I'm like, how the fuck are they gonna know?
How are you gonna? Yeah.
And I remember I was like, you got up a few times, and I'm like, I remember just like being like a mind fuck where I'm like, dude, why can't I hit the ball now? Why can't I hit the ball? And like I knew I was good. So like, and coaches there, they don't know who you are. It's not like, they can be like, well, I know he's good. He's just, in a slump right now. So, things didn't work out. I remember like getting cut, and I was like, man, I can't fucking believe I got cut. And that's like the first kind of real, I would say, adversity I faced, without like my dad around, where it was like, all right, now, like looking back now, or if that was my son, I'd be like, all right, man, so fucking practice, like, don't stop working. You're good. Show that. And I remember having like players at the time, like seniors, being like, dude, we know, like, because you do other drills and shit like that. They can see like I can feel real good, and they're like, yo, I got cut too in the fall, and I came back and made it in the spring, because there's like 2 baseball seasons. The fall is like the bullshit season, and then the spring season
makes you work a little bit harder. Yeah, it's like I know that I'm good, but they can't see. I got to work a little bit harder.
And I didn't. I fucking went the opposite way. I was like, you know what? Fuck this. Fuck everyone. And I started developing like this mentality where I just didn't give a shit about anything. And that really wasn't me. I was always an okay student in high school. I just didn't go to class. I was drinking. I became drunk a lot, became like the loudmouth from New York, because down in Virginia, you stood out like a motherfucker, man. Like
you were already, but before,
especially with the accent,
you were already that kid. Yeah,
anything I said, I'd say a word like, "Oh, where you from?" I'm like, motherfucker, Long Island. So what? Like it would just like, and that, like I said, that really wasn't me, and they all thought I was like, oh, that's the loudmouth drunk from New York, that's Chris Fontana, and I was
they probably thought you were all connected in the mob or something, right?
So I'm like, I'm gonna go with it, and and I think the first year, it wasn't a surprise I failed out. I got like first semester 3 Ds and an F, which is like a 0.75 or some shit like that. Went back the next semester and just did not care. Even again, just whatever, just continued to drink. And then, like I said, failed out that first year, coming home, and that's when that disappointment feeling, like, like I'm a loser now, I'm a failure in life. What the fuck am I gonna do with my life? I know my dad's looking down, disappointed with me. So that's kind of like where the drinking went to another level, So at 19, I was going to bars, blacking out, doing shots, and again, thinking it's normal because that's what we did. That's what my friends did. And I guess I kind of took it maybe to another level, I kind of did it too much, and it went like on that, went like that for a few years. And then I remember I was like, you know what? I started to make a little bit of a comeback, because, I gained a lot of weight, freshman year, and I was always an athlete, so that wasn't me either. So that kind of played a role in like a little depression. So I kind of made a little bit of a comeback. I think I went to Suffolk for some classes. I started working out again, started to shed some weight. So I'm like, all right. But unfortunately, the drinking was still there. So I think at 22 was my first official rock bottom. Drinking and driving, like I did many times. Blacked out. Don't remember shit. All the thing I remember is like the final impact. I ended up hitting like 5 parked cars, but the last one was like, bam, the impact, and I came to a stop, and it was like waking up from a dream. And I remember just looking around, being like, what the fuck am I doing in my car? Like, where am I? Turns out I was in front of a party that was my brother's friends. I wasn't even going there. Don't know why I was going that way. They heard the crash, so came running out. Saw me and was like, you all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm all right. They put it like I looked like a heavyweight fighter that got knocked out, but that just kept trying to get up.
Like Rocky?
I was just like, wobbling, like, no, I'm good. Blood coming down my head, busted up my knee. My car, it was a brand new Jeep I just got, didn't move. I still don't know what my brother's friend said to the cops this day, because he took me in the car, took me to the hospital. Cops ended up coming there. Did not get in trouble. Did not get no DUI, no nothing.
And what was this? What year?
2002-ish.
You said you were 22?
22. Yeah, I think it was around 2002, around there. So I remember, still being drunk in the hospital. The nurse, by this time it's like 5, 6 in the morning, and she's like, "Did you call anyone?" I'm like, "Nah." I'm like, "I'm all right." She's like, "I got work today. Can I?" She's like, "You're getting surgery." Like my knee was just fucking all busted
and
up.
you didn't even know.
I had no idea. I'm like thinking like I
have work today.
Yeah, I got work. I was landscaping at the time. I'm like, "No, my boss gonna be pissed at me, so I got to go to work." She's like, "You're not going to work for a while." It's like, and
what do you fucking mean I'm not going?
Yeah,
for a while? Like,
it's like,
stitch me up, get me the fuck out of here.
She's like, I have a son, and if he did this to me, I would like, you need to call your mother and let her know that you're about to go into surgery, that you're here, blah blah blah. And oh shit, I have to edit that one out.
No, it's all good. Happens to the best.
We'll just zoom it in your face. Nobody saw it.
So, long story short, with that one, ended up getting reconstructive surgery. The first of reconstructive surgery due to alcohol. And this is when the depression and the sense of being a failure and all that really hit me, because for the first month I'm in bed, I can't move. And then once I was able to really crutch around and move around, I was already going to bars again with my friends. So it didn't really learn my lesson at all. And
what were you thinking? Like were you were just being with your friends? Like you didn't even think about the effects of alcohol and what it does? You were just like kind of numb to it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I just didn't really care, like it was just this feeling of like, I don't give a shit about anything, and
whatever happens.
Yeah. And it was, I was trying to tell myself it was normal, because that's what we did, I guess, but, deep down I probably knew it was not right, or I might have something wrong with the drinking and all that, but just really didn't give a shit. And it was like,
what were you drinking a lot? Was it just straight beer?
Everything, beer, liquor, wine, it didn't matter. Like at that point I was just like, I just like to get drunk. I like to just numb myself.
Wow.
And, from 22, for the rest of my 20s, it just got progressively worse and worse and worse and worse. Like the weight gain got a lot. I mean, at my worst, I was 300 pounds,
Wow.
So that was, like through those times. And
you're a big guy,
Yeah.
So that's pretty big.
Yeah, it was, 6'2", and then up to 300 pounds. It was tough. But, that's when the anxiety really kicked in, because I felt it at an early age, probably around 19 or so. Like I just knew like I didn't feel right. I mean, I don't know what the fuck's wrong with me. And mostly after like a night of drinking. And I just kind of started really planting the seed in my head that like something was wrong with me. I'm going to die young like my dad did. Fuck it. I don't care. Something's wrong. It doesn't feel right. Never went to the doctors. So by my mid 20s, man, they were like full blown.
How's your mother feeling about all this that's going on?
She probably had a tough time with it. I mean, there was a few times I think she wanted me to talk to people, and me being, the young stupid kid. No, fuck that. How am I gonna? They're not gonna help me. They're not gonna be able to bring anyone back. They're not gonna be able to fucking, help me out at all. So, I feel bad for kind of what I put it through, but the anxiety attacks is what really hurt me in my 20s, and anyone who's had a panic attack, like a real panic attack, it's not fun at all, man. You think you're dying, it's very same symptoms as heart attack. So I mean, from my arm going numb to my heart pounding out of my chest to beating so slow where I'm like, is this fucking even my pound? Is it even going? Just so many times, and no one knew any of it was going on, man. And most of the time it was when I did something physical, and I always did manual labor, work. I was an alcoholic, but I was a functioning alcoholic. Always went to work, so I was always doing things. So man, I'd be steady working, digging in a hole, and like on the inside, I'm screaming, "Holy fuck, I'm dying!" And on the outside,
and nobody knew.
No one had any idea, man. It was the mental warfare that went inside my head on a daily basis for I would say a better part of a decade. Where constantly every day I'm like, well, today's the day. Today's the day I'm going to drop dead. I mean, many times alone in my apartment, I'm on the verge of calling 911, and just like, I don't know if there was something in me where it was like embarrassment or kind of the fuck it. And, I used to call it like, it was like a living suicide. I never contemplated suicide. I could never do that to my mother, but it was like, I didn't give a shit what happened. I didn't give a fuck about, I didn't want to die, but I didn't really care about living, if that makes sense. And, I think that was...
And you just kept it all to yourself. You didn't talk to anybody, like your friend or nobody.
No, I still have, since going, reaching out and putting my story on social media and starting my brand and starting my show and all that, I've had people reach out to me that I grew up with. Like, man, I had no idea you're going through this. And then, I have a brother who's doing that. Can you think you can talk to him, help him out? But yeah, no, I didn't talk to anyone about this until maybe around 30 or so, when I finally got to that point where I'm like, I need help. I can't keep living like this.
So what happened from 22 up until 30, where you said you had this turning point in your life that...
Yeah, like what was the aha moment?
Because you said 22 was kind of like that first rock bottom. Did it get even worse up until, at the point you said around 30?
Between 22 and 30, it got a lot worse. Yeah, there was,
So what was the turning point?
It was, I would say, and maybe to this day, my most powerful why was like I was just sick of fucking hating myself. I was just, I remember days looking in the mirror and, it was, I've talked about it before. It was almost like an out-of-body experience, man. Like I'm looking at myself in the mirror and it was like I was looking at someone, not me, and being like, I fucking hate that guy.
Yeah.
And that was a powerful thing where I'm like, to really like feel it, where you just fucking hate yourself, man. I hate it.
You feel like you're looking at a stranger.
Yeah, and but you hated him like the way he was. Like what a fucking loser. Like what has he done with his life?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the point where I would say,
did you have like a wife or kids or anything by 30?
I had a girlfriend who it's funny, I met at around 22. I think right after the accident I met her. Turned out to be my first wife, which didn't work out. But yeah, she was with me pretty much from 22 until 34ish, I think, when I got divorced from her.
Did she help? Was she?
She tried. She just wasn't.
She just didn't know how to deal with it?
No, yeah.
It's probably one of those scenarios where it's tough to help somebody that doesn't want to help themselves.
Yeah, it didn't matter who it was. I was not going to...
You were shut down from everybody.
No one was going to help me.
Close the door and were like, don't talk to me.
And she was a very nice girl. She, maybe she's the perfect wife for someone else, but she just, wasn't that person to kick my ass. Who my wife now is a Spanish woman. She'll kick my fucking ass now.
No, believe that.
Yeah.
Literally and
so,
and
That's
figuratively.
probably what I needed. But so she was there and put her through a lot. Many drunken parties, weddings, holidays that I don't even remember how many times I've been drunk and blackouts and just horrible messes through that whole 22 to 30 was just a shit show pretty much.
So tell us about what happened after that moment you had with yourself in the mirror.
Yeah, you're 30 years old now and you're like,
you have this moment where you said you're looking at yourself in the mirror, almost looking at a stranger saying, I hate you. What happened immediately?
Okay.
What happened immediately after that?
The first thing I did was, and I just got a county job, so finally had health insurance. So I was like,
30 years old, finally.
Yeah, finally made it big. So I ended up going to the doctor because I'm like I really thought, something was physically wrong with me. So I think going to the doctor and actually first, and that was when I remember getting on the scale. She's like 300. I'm like 300. What the fuck, man? All right, so that's definitely got to change. And I was telling her what was going on, my symptoms and all that shit. And basically, I felt like I was having a heart attack, and it was multiple times a day for I don't know how long. And I remember just even walking out of that first doctor's visit, it felt like a huge weight just fucking off my shoulders.
Like talking to somebody.
Just saying it out loud. And
yeah.
So we ended up going to the heart doctor, and they do all the tests and the stress tests, and they hook you up with all these machines and all this shit. And he's like, other than having high blood pressure, he's like, I don't see anything wrong with you. He's like, and that was the first time I heard them mention anxiety, and I was like, get the fuck out of here.
Like, what the heck is this?
Yeah, anxiety is not gonna I'm having physical symptoms here. Like, to me, like, anxiety was like maybe a mental thing. I don't know. And so I was kind of like relieved for about 30 seconds, and then I was like, well, how the fuck do I beat this then? Anxiety. So ended up, and I remember he wanted to put me on blood pressure medication, and I was like, there's no fucking way I'm going on medication. I'm too young for that shit. And I remember going up to sign up for a gym that day.
This is all the same day, from the mirror to
within that same time frame. It's a little hazy because unfortunately I didn't get sober till I was 38. So there was many drinking. It was definitely blacking out. I mean, there's a lot in my 20s I don't even really remember. Even in my early 30s where I don't really remember. Shit. So like the time frames, it's hard to it's all around that same time where I was like, all right, man, this is enough. I can't do this anymore. So I ended up going to speaking to a therapist. They put me on some medication, like Lexapro, which a minor dosage, nothing crazy. Since she gave me some Xanax to get me over that initial, because Lexapro takes a little time to build up in your system. I remember the Xanax, they were small. They're not like the fucking things that they have nowadays, those big ass fucking bars and all that. It was like little pills, and I think it was like 0.25s or whatever it was. And I remember I used to take like 4 of them before I go to the gym, because that was like my biggest fear, was dropping dead of a heart attack. That I was so out of shape. I drank so much that at this point, doing drugs and coke and weed and all that shit all the time. And I'm like, I'm going to drop dead of a heart attack. So that was like my biggest fear, and that would cause multiple attacks a day.
It was your anxiety. You built the anxiety from thinking that you were going to drop dead every single day.
Yeah. That was. I mean, I can think myself into a panic attack like that.
Yeah.
It was like, I feel like I'm having. Like, am I? Yep. I'm having one.
No, I hear you.
So it took a little while. I remember the therapist was like, "You take 4 of them before you go to the gym." I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "How'd that make you feel?" I'm like, "Normal." It made me feel fucking normal, because it like calmed the nerves, and I was able to like work out. And it was still a battle, man. It was still, it's hard. You don't just get over the fear like that of thinking you're gonna drop dead. So I remember this one particular time, man. I remember running on the treadmill for like 5 minutes and had a horrible attack, like where I'm like, oh, this is it. Like, I remember I hit the button on the treadmill, quit, walked out of the gym, drove home crying, went to my apartment. I'm like, I have no idea how I'm gonna beat this.
And where do you think that derived from, that fear of dying? Is it from your father passing away?
I believe that played a role in it, and it was just for years and years and years, just fucking planting a seed in my head that something was wrong with me, something physically was wrong with me, and then just drinking and
living that life,
being and just probably the horrible lifestyle and being so out of shape, and then being like, I'm gonna drop dead. Like, it was just, that was it, man. It was just so hard to overcome that.
It's amazing how the mind really works, right? Where it gets to a point powerful. Where there was probably, arguably there's nothing wrong. There was physically nothing wrong, but you create the scenario in your brain, and you tell yourself over and over and over and over and over again that you actually create something.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's nothing there, but your mind creates it and makes it a reality. Just like you said, you can think yourself into at that point, you were just thinking and thinking and thinking, and all of a sudden now it happens. It's like there was nothing wrong before, but you just kept thinking it and telling yourself, and it works in the negative and the positive as well, right?
Mind is very powerful, and that particular time, and I remember just sitting in my apartment crying, because I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna get past this, and then that was the moment where it's what I call today the primal mindset, because there was something in me where I was like, you know what? Fuck it, I ran 5 minutes today, I'm gonna run fucking 6 minutes tomorrow. And it was just something inside my head where like, I'm gonna get better no matter what. Like, and I developed a short memory, didn't give a fuck what happened the day before. And it was this mantra I developed that I still use today, man. It was just like, I wake up today, I go today, and that was it.
I wake up today, I go today.
Yeah, that was it, man. That was.
Yeah, I've seen that in your videos.
Yeah, I say that. Like I said, to this day, man, I still use it. And from that day forward, man, it was just, that's it. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna get a little bit better every day, and little by little, man, it was, I was a little bit of weight. I was able to get stronger. I was able to get faster. I was able to just get mentally stronger, mentally, just better, and still continuing with the therapist. And that like from that day, man, I just really haven't looked back. And that mindset, that what I call now, when you train your mind and you make meaning of the things that happen, that helped me later in life get sober. That mentality, because I mean, there's a from that, when I ended up losing, like, I would say like a quick 50 to 60 pounds in like 2 months.
Wow.
Because I went from like one extreme to the other. Like I was going to the gym every day.
Yeah.
This trainer gave me this meal plan, like, you know, and it wasn't measuring shit. Basically, it was just eat healthy.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like the first, first, especially if, you know, when you get to the point where it's that big, you know, like when you're 300 pounds of 6, that's big. It's a big dude. And obviously you're not, you know, 300 pounds like Ronnie Coleman, 300 pounds.
No,
it was like 300 pounds of fat.
Not
like,
solid.
Right.
Not
so
solid.
that first 50 comes off probably really quick.
So that happened quick, and that really, that gave me a lot of confidence, man. That's when I really started being like, all right, man, I can fucking do this, you know. And that like I said, that mindset was able to get me sober, you know, 8 years later, whatever it was.
How did you transition that mindset into alcoholism?
It was, you know, and like I said, there was a lot of shit that happened from that to, you know, I got divorced, or I should say I got married and divorced in that, and then got remarried again, right before I got sober. You know, almost fucked up on that honeymoon. You know, it was not good. And then, you know, the last, you know, shit show, it was December 24th, 2017. So, you know, December 25th, Christmas Day, is my sober date, and I'm never losing that.
Wow.
You know, so, you know, again, just holidays where I just kept drinking, you know, sneaking
That's a special day. You know, you celebrate Christmas, you know, it's a big holiday, but it's also a personal day, and it's something to always, you know, it's a good, easy number to remember every year.
Christmas miracle every year, I say. So,
definitely.
you know, at this point, I was at the point where I was like, you know, drink one, sneak three. Drink one, sneak three. So to them, it's like, oh, he's not drinking that much. So again, don't really remember too much. And, you know, we were at my brother's house in Connecticut. Drove home back to Long Island. We were living in Plainview at the time. You know, obviously I couldn't drive. I think I tried to drive and drove a little bit, and they realized, like, you get the fuck, like, there's one of those where, like, I would take hard liquor and just drink it, and then it was like, it would hit you, like, all of a sudden, maybe a little bit later or whatever it was. And
you're sitting down for like a couple hours, and you get up and you're like, oh, now it fucking hits.
So, you know, my wife ended up having to drive home. I'm in the back seat, passed out. You know, and I always like to be honest with people. So, you know, I pissed myself for the fucking 100th millionth time. You know what I mean? You know, pissed myself in the backseat of a car. Went home, don't remember really. Woke up the next day. It was Christmas morning. She actually worked. She came home from work. Get out. That was it. You know, we just got married in that August. You know, so you're looking at
6 months.
Yeah, and that, you know, whatever it was. And I remember leaving, going to a hotel
on Christmas Day.
Leaving, going to a hotel room, eating Burger King because it was the only thing open, you know. And then that was another moment in my life again where I'm like looking in the mirror, I'm like, am I gonna settle for a life of misery? Am I gonna end up dead because I just can't stop drinking? I'm gonna drink and drive and kill myself or someone else and be in jail the rest of my life. And,
you're probably looking at yourself saying, like, listen, is it, you know, am I really gonna let this ruin my life? Like, this little thing, this insignificant poison, am I going to let this ruin me, or am I going to do something, make a change, and overcome? Like, you know, it gets to that point where you're sitting there, like, the grand scheme is like me, human being, versus this. Like, who's going to win? Right?
And I said, fuck you, you're not winning. And you know, I went to the rooms of AA, which, you know, forever grateful. And, you know, they open you with open arms, you know, and you know, they always can tell when someone. I remember a guy said, he's like, no one comes in here on a winning streak, so they know when someone's coming in that, you know, it needs it. And
that's a good way to put it. Like, you know, I kind of, to help others that if they're in a situation like that, to realize, like, listen, you're not going there, you know, on a good note. Right? Everybody's like kind of scared to go to something like this.
You're scared, you're embarrassed,
for some help. It's like,
you think like, you know, whatever, man. Just people just don't want to do it. So, you know, I did it, and
you almost think people are gonna judge you too, right? And you like I'm gonna be, you know, I'm gonna be the worst one. It's like, really, everybody.
Dude, you hear stories, like, oh yeah, I did that. You hear another story, yep, I did that too. You hear another story, oh yeah, been there.
Yeah, there's something.
It's kind of funny, like
powerful when you hear other. I look at it like when you're in a room full of people and no one wants to ask a question, and then one person asks a question. And then 10 other people ask questions.
And then everyone starts asking questions.
It's like something about like the comfortability of knowing other people feel or think the same way as you. So feel, I guess, better about yourself.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too how the mind plays tricks. The mind will convince you and play tricks on you. And what I mean by that is, you were probably sitting there saying like, none of these people know what I've gone through. None of these people are going to accept me. They don't understand. And like your mind will convince you that the people in AA that have had problems with alcohol, the reason they're there, aren't going to understand your situation or aren't going to have done what you've done. It's like your mind will tell you that, and you're like, wait a second, you have to overcome that. It's like, no, they all have been here. Probably done worse than I have. It's like, that's
they say that's your ego,
right?
Playing tricks on you, thinking that you're the only person that's been through that, and that, and knowing, like, hearing all these sayings and shit like that, and I understand AA is not for everyone, and I was with it for the first 2 or 3 years, and then when COVID hit, I did Zooms, and I never really kind of went back, because what it did teach me is about camaraderie, about having a support system, and then like I said, one of the sayings they preached, ODAT, one day at a time. And I remember hearing that and being like, fuck, dude, I know that. I wake up today, I go today, man. I don't drink today. And that was just like that mindset I had, from that day forward going into AA. And I was like, I haven't touched a drink since.
And how long has it been?
6 years now.
6 years.
Yeah.
But I think what's a good point is that, you had said that AA is, like, you had started it, right? And then you went through a couple of Zoom sessions, and now you said that you don't do it anymore. However, you started it and took away and learned what you needed to in order to, because some people need to go every single day.
I understand that,
which is fine.
There's people who've been sober 30 years that still go all the
still
time,
go.
And that's fine with them. And another thing that stayed with me, as someone said in there, is like, listen, AA is not for everyone. You take what you want and you leave the rest of it. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did, and I was like, you know what, let me start my own, community, my own, GP Nation, and being part of NGBN that we, talked a little bit about before. Man, you have camaraderie, you have support system, whether it's alcoholism, addiction, whatever, and mental health, whatever it is, man, you're not alone. As men, like, we're here for you. We've been through it, and that, that's kind of like what I took from it.
Yeah, I think another thing too is, sorry, Eric, that people don't realize, especially men, right? Because being a man, there's this stigma of a bravado that you need to be the tough guy and suppress your emotions, right? And you need to be the one that goes to battle and fights. And there's nothing wrong with, obviously, I believe in being a man's man, right?
A good strong male
presence. I believe in that. Yeah. But what I'm getting at is there's something that it's almost innate that men have a difficulty asking for help when there's something wrong.
Yeah. Like, right? Ask directions. Nah, I'm not asking.
Like something simple, right? Like and then when you have that's something simple, but when you have a serious problem, 100%. There's this whole ego thing where I'm not going to ask for help. I don't need help. Mm-hmm. It's like there's nothing wrong with asking it, and people don't realize that all you have to do is ask.
Yeah.
Just go out. Seek and ye shall find. If you seek the help, there's people out there that are more than willing to help.
Oh yeah,
and like you said, in some cases, if there's the support group and you need to go every single day in order to stay on track, then great. But if you need to go learn what you need to learn, and then you remove yourself, but you're still on track, then it was a success. Then the AA was a success.
Yeah, to me it was 100% success. And like I said, I'm always forever grateful for AA, because if I didn't walk into, even through my 20s, I did a few outpatient rehabs, and it was mostly just to appease other people. It was never really for me.
Sure.
So I did, dabble with that, and did try some AA meetings, and then I just went, and that was it. And
it was more to shut other people up.
Yeah, it was more.
I did it
to show.
So it was more for the wrong. It was for the wrong reason.
Like, I'm trying, and then go.
You're like, I wasn't.
Drink, or I'd smoke weed in the parking lot, and then walk into. It was just. That type of shit. But
so now you're 6 years sober from everything?
Yeah, I don't touch anything
except for cigars.
Cigars is always good.
So where did cigars come into play?
Cigars, it was, man, my grandfather was in the cigar business for probably 60 years or so.
Really?
Yeah.
What was he doing?
He worked for Camacho.
No shit.
Yeah, he was I believe in charge.
Now owned by.
I think you told me that.
Yeah.
Now is it owned by Davidoff?
Yeah, they sold the Davidoff. That's a whole thing where he did not get what he was supposed to get, but I'm not going to get into that. Yeah, it was. He basically the owner of Camacho is from Honduras, which is funny. That's where my wife's from. He was from Honduras. They have, tobacco fields in Honduras. And then, so my grandfather, worked with him, built up the company. And because he was like I said, in the cigar business for I don't know how, 60 up until he pretty much passed away. And he was, in his 80s. He knew like so many, like back then the sales, you drive and do sales calls and like, like any little bodega in like Pennsylvania. He's like, yeah, I know that spot. Let's go over there. And people would know who he was. So he, like the guy knew, my grandfather knew a lot of, people and he built up the business. The guy wanted to get his son involved in it. So he had my grandfather basically teach his son everything, about the business. And then when it did come time to sell it, they sold it to Davidoff. It was it was, I don't want
that's a story for another day. Story for another day.
Off table.
Yeah, whole
so he was the one who got you into smoking cigars.
So yeah, I mean it was just always in my family. Like all my uncle, I have my dad was the oldest, and then he had 1, 2, 3, 4 brothers and a sister. So growing up, like everyone smoked cigars. You know, that's what it was. So even in high school, I remember my high school graduation, give it a cigar. We smoked cigars.
Hell yeah.
I went to college. They gave me, my uncle gave me cigars to bring, which my uncle, my grandfather named Baccarat. He named that.
No,
and,
okay.
We had the LaFontanas. We had the cigars.
That was after you?
Yeah, that was,
no way.
That's awesome, man.
So I went to college and brought LaFontanas for my roommates. So my nickname through college was La. They call me La.
They just called you La.
Yeah, they're like, oh, there's La Fontana, and so everyone knew me as La.
Well, how is it in college being like a cigar smoker?
Yeah,
because I got a funny story about me.
Yeah,
but I wanted to ask you.
It wasn't too big, like because then everyone's smoking blunts and shit.
Right?
Like that,
Everybody's smoking weed, not smoking cigars.
Yeah, so like it wouldn't really smoke too much in college. It was mostly when I was home, whatever. And
or in college, you're smoking like Swisher Sweets and shit.
Yeah, it was different ones. But yeah, mostly at home. Family parties. Obviously, we always smoke cigars, and so I just always loved smoking cigars.
Because I remember being in college, that's kind of when I had started smoking cigars. 15, 16 was when I had my first one, but then it was occasional.
Right,
it wasn't like it is now, where
Yeah.
it's we have our own brand, right?
Yeah.
But I remember being in college, and it was I was there for 5.5 years, and the later after I stopped playing basketball, like the last year and a half, I kind of really started smoking cigars. That's when I had a nice humidor and I started smoking it, right? And I remember one time being out. I had this little patio right outside my apartment, and it'd be like a Friday night or something. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going out. It's the nice night. I got a game tomorrow morning because I was still playing in rec leagues. I'm like, I'm just gonna. So I'd go out on the balcony, right, and I have a cigar, and I'd be overlooking like the courtyard, and there'd be all the college kids just hammered, right? And they're just walking over like this, and they're all looking up at me like, who the fuck is this kid?
Yeah.
Like, who do you think you are? On a Friday night, you're having a cigar on your patio, listening to Frank Sinatra. Like, who the fuck is this guy? And you could just, they didn't have to say it, but you can see the look.
They were saying it.
They were saying it.
Without saying it.
I'm just sitting there, my feet up on the balcony, and they're like, who the fuck is this kid?
Yeah. That's funny.
And then when did you start your brand Go Primal?
So
what is that about?
That when COVID hit. I was working a lot, a few jobs. My son, and it wasn't a coincidence. I got sober, December, 25th, 2017. I was sober. 3-4 months later, whatever, my wife told me she was pregnant with our first kid.
Wow.
So when did you? So you left it. You left Christmas Day. And then when did you move back in?
I can't remember. It wasn't too long, because obviously I went to AA right away. Many nights sleeping in my car, it was not fun. I came maybe a week or two, maybe a couple weeks.
And then did your wife know? Did you tell her like, listen, I'm clean?
Yeah. I was told her I was going to meetings. I was gonna do it. There's no way in hell I'm gonna drink again.
And then 4 months later.
4 months later, it was actually on Father's Day. She told me.
No shit.
Yeah, that she's pregnant. Like, I remember we went on a fishing trip on a fishing boat. We came back and my stepson gave me a card, and like I forgot, I think I opened it up, and then there was like a pregnancy test in there. I'm like, oh shit, you know. They have a video of it. I started breaking down. It was so that was good.
And this was your first kid?
Yeah, my first kid. He's 5 now. So I hit a year sober. He was born a few weeks later. He was born in January. I hit a year sober. 2018, December 25th. He was born January 16th, 2019. So I went like a whole year. He was born. I worked a lot. I worked 2 jobs. So there was times I'd go like 2-3 days without seeing him. Because I'd leave early, come home late. So when COVID hit, I'm always careful because I know people lost people during COVID and stuff like that. But to me, I was like, man, I had to make meaning of it, and it was probably one of the best things because I was home. Thank God I was lucky where my county job, I was still getting paid. So it wasn't, I worked in a restaurant, so obviously I was, shut down, wasn't getting paid from them. But at least I was able to, still get paid from the county. My wife was still working because she's, in the food industry where it was like basically a deli, so they never shut down really.
Yeah, it was essential, right?
Yeah, essential. So she was able to keep working. So I was home every day with my son. Man, I was fucking
loving
cooking food. We were going on walks. It was great.
Smoking cigars. He was like 3 years old. Here, have this. Come on, come on.
So there was, and that was when I was like, you know what, man, look where I was. Look where I am now. Like I have something here. I don't know what it is, but there's something I need to do with this. And I really had no idea. College dropout, don't know shit about anything else. So I was like, let me just put my story on social media. So I ended up putting it on, and I was not a social media guy. Even to this day, like I do it, I understand it, and I got better at talking, so I don't mind it as much. But like back then, I was like, I fucking hate it. I don't like talking. I don't.
I imagine the more that you, like you said, the first time that you went into the doctors and you were talking about some of these troubles that you were having was probably very, very difficult.
Oh yeah.
But it's a weight lifted. But I imagine that the more that you talk about it, like each and every time that you tell your story, it probably gets a little bit bit more comfortable, and a little bit
more comfortable. It gets easier, and it feels good because I know I'm helping people.
Right.
So like obviously now, like if you told me back then I was gonna have a show and be on, like get the fuck out of here.
You probably didn't think you'd even be alive.
No, yeah. So so that was, like I said, I put it on social media, and this guy on LinkedIn who's still with me to this day, he was a marketing guy, said, you got a good story. What are you doing with it? I'm like, I have no fucking idea what I'm doing with it. Like I don't.
Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, like I don't know.
I did it. That's what I'm doing with it. I did it.
He was like, and
so I'm sorry. So when you say you started putting your story on social media, where you were just talking about what happened to you?
Pretty much, yeah. What I'm, talking about now, and I kind of where I was, and then the mental warfare with the anxiety, because, and again, I'm always careful how I say this, and maybe it's just because the way my story played out. Getting over the anxiety and the fear of dying was one of the hardest things I ever had to do.
Yeah, because that's a mental battle.
Yeah, so that
the physical battle's
the physical battle was easy, and I think it just got me, like I said, mentally, trained my mind to later on get sober, and I know how hard that is for people, but the way my story went, getting over that was the hardest thing. So I'm like, I think I can help people with that. Because
like the physical, the physical thing, it's especially like you think about the workout. Granted, the workout is only like an hour. Okay.
Yeah.
Out of your 24 hours. And it's not so much what you do in the gym, it's what you do out of the gym, right? All the stuff that you're eating, right? But you eat, let's say you eat 5 times a day. It takes you 10 minutes to eat food, 15 minutes to eat food. So that's, let's call that an hour or so. And then another hour in the gym. So it's really only 2 hours that you really need to be dedicated, okay? And I granted there's no snacking and all that stuff, but the mental is all
24/7.
Day long. 24/7. Inside your brain all day long battling.
There's nothing worse than laying in your bed and not sleeping and just sitting there
all day long.
Sitting there thinking, I'm going to die right now. What the fuck's going on? Oh, something feels... and
that's got to be the toughest battle there is.
I always call it, man. It was a mental warfare inside my head for a long time,
Definitely.
And so that was, I think the maybe the bigger part of my story, and and for some reason I always had in my head to call something Stay Stronger, have like shirts or have t-shirts and whatever it was, and apparel. So I told him, and he was like, all right, maybe we'll come up with something else. And, he
that's commonly used, right?
Yeah.
Be stronger.
Yeah. So, he gave me this like all these questionnaire type things because he's a marketing guy. He's like, there's a science to it and all this. Me, I'm like, all right, whatever, man. I don't, whatever it is. So I answer all the questions, and he comes back to me and he's like, what do you think of Go Primal? And I was like, dude, I immediately thought of me back in that apartment when like I had that. When I'm like, fuck this, I see something. Like, it just reminded me of a lion on a hunt. Yeah. You see something he needs out of necessity, and it's not going to stop till he gets it. And that was me in that apartment. I'm like, dude, fuck, I see who I'm supposed to be, who I'm going to be, who I'm meant to be, and I'm not going to stop until I get it. So I was like, dude, I love it. Go Primal. And then, we messed around with the logo, and we went back and forth, and, I get pretty particular with shit, so it took a little while, but he came up with the logo, and I was like, all right, man, let's do it. And so I put it on apparel because I just thought that's the only way to really get it out there. I didn't, know, and I'm thinking it's going to fly off the shelf. This is going to be sick, man. People are going to be like, oh, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to do good. And nothing, no one knows. Yeah.
Just like how everyone else thought.
Yeah. So,
I got this great idea. Everyone's gonna love it.
Yeah.
Here, crickets.
Where's
everybody at?
So it was, that I think I, went with that for a little bit, and then, someone told me, it was like, listen, man, Go Primal, the brand is you. You're the brand. Talk about you more. Stop being like you're an apparel brand. No, it's a brand. It's you. It's more of a mindset. It's a lifestyle.
Because people don't buy the brand. They buy what the brand represents. Yeah. Right. Like if it wasn't you, it would just be a shirt that says Go Primal on it.
And you come out with a sick design, man. People might buy it, but then they're just going to go to the next good design. But when they latch on to the brand, and so when I started doing that, I think that kind of gave me the idea to maybe start a show, and then again on LinkedIn, the CEO of NGBN reached out to me.
Which is, remind us again, NGBN,
National Grassroots Broadcasting Network.
National Grassroots Broadcasting Network. Okay.
Men's network focusing on the mental health for the midlife man. So he said he's going to start this network. Would I be interested in it? And like we talked about before, you hear all these people saying shit like, oh, I got this. Yeah, all right.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do
It's the next best thing. Yeah. It's going to be bigger than Netflix.
Yeah.
Okay.
So me being like, all right, man, anything. And that's when I found out about, the highest suicide rate within, the midlife man, which, I fell into. And
can you explain a little bit, unpack that a little bit, as people say?
Yeah. So 40s, 50s, and 60s is, usually the midlife or so. They call the midlife man. And I think a lot of it has to do what we were talking about before, where like when you're a man, you think you have to be so strong. You think you have to be the man of the family, the head of the family. You think you have to have everything under control. You think you have to have everything like figured out, and a lot of men don't, and they don't know what to do with it. And, unfortunately they, end up committing suicide or even statistics with, guys who get divorced, they're out of shape, they don't know what to do. They don't know how to date nowadays. Everything's a fucking app and all this shit. And like people get depressed. And so unfortunately, I think, they end up taking their lives. And
so I've been hearing so much in the last, like, especially since COVID, but even right before COVID, so much about like male mental health and like, how it's an epidemic in itself, just because like we've been saying, our parents grew up with like, you just take it on the chin and you just, or at least our fathers, right?
Rub some dirt on it.
You
get
rub
the
some
fuck
dirt
up,
on it, and you move on with the next day. Like, Tony Soprano says in The Sopranos, like, what happened to the Gary Cooper types, the silent
strong,
types, silent types, And
I think there's also like the nowadays too. They're always talking about this whole, toxic masculinity thing, which I don't agree with, and I don't want to go down that whole rabbit hole. Right?
I'm with you on that one.
Right? I don't agree, but. When you're hearing it from all these different things, you might start questioning, like, well, maybe I am toxic.
Right.
Maybe I shouldn't be doing it. It's like, no. So that probably could play into a role, too, is if you're...
Let me say this. There's always been bravado guys over the top, and you just think, that guy's an ass. That guy's a jerk off.
The guy's a fucking asshole.
Yeah, that's it. I'm not thinking, he's toxic and masculine. His masculinity is so toxic. I'm like, this guy's a jerk off.
Yeah, the guy's an asshole. I don't hang out with him. Simple as that.
Yeah. And there's nothing, like you had mentioned too. It's like, okay, the whole idea, just rub some dirt on it. Come on, get up, right? There's to an extent, like that's good where you're younger, it toughens you up a little bit, right? And the little things, you don't let them bother you. But then there's some things that you can't just rub dirt on it.
Right.
Okay? There's some things that you might want to ask for some help, or it's okay to feel a certain way.
Sure.
Right? A lot of people say, no, you can't show emotion. You can't feel that way. And we had talked about it previously on another episode where I said sometimes it's okay to learn how to suppress emotions for certain reasons, right? Okay, in the business world, if you're in a big negotiation, you need being able to know how to not let the other person know what you're thinking or know what you're feeling, especially in sports. You played sports, right? You played basketball.
Yeah.
Learning how to suppress your frustration and anger and not let the other team know that you're pissed off or you're frustrated, because if they know that, then they're just going to fucking get on.
Keep going.
They're going to keep digging, right? But then on the other side is sometimes it's okay to feel frustrated.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's okay to let it out. Sometimes things might build up and they're like, oh, I gotta. It's okay.
Yeah.
Like, that's why, there's people there's a culture out there. There's a group, and there's people that are willing to help you, especially. That's why it's so important that if you have a significant other, to both be on the same wavelength, where if you're one day feeling super stressed out and it's okay. Yeah. They're there to pick you up and say, listen, it's fine. Like, we're going to get this through. And vice versa. When they're feeling super stressed out, you're there to pick them up. And that's what the beauty of having these people and having this camaraderie that you said.
Yeah, I used to be the same way. Like, my family, everything was always surface level conversations. We never really sat down and talk about feelings and stuff. Like, every once in a while there'd be a conversation. I would feel super uncomfortable, but I always suppressed everything, and until I met my wife, who was the complete opposite. Her family was open about everything. If they had an issue, it was done right then and there, and everyone knew how they felt. So as I was dating my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, but she was like, you can't suppress everything.
Yeah.
Like, you can't keep exploding, and it's not good. Like, it's okay to talk. She's like, I always see you're like trying to hold back tears, and you can tell me that you're sad or you're scared, and I'm like, nah, I'm not fucking doing that. Nah. Now I'm a complete softie. I start crying at commercials,
bro.
I'm like looking at commercials. I'm like, why am I feeling a tear coming?
Dude, I feel you 100%, dude. And it's actually it's interesting too, because the more that you suppress it, and the more that you just kind of I'm just gonna suck this one up. It builds. Oh, yeah. It builds and builds. And especially, if there's little, you're going to get into little arguments, and there's little things that happen, right? And if you don't nip it in the bud immediately and you just suppress it, okay, on to the next one. Then there's going to be another little thing you suppress, and then another little thing. And then it's the straw that broke the camel's back, and you just explode. Yeah. And then now it's, you made a right on red when you shouldn't have made a right on red, and now you're talking about how you're fucking pissed off at each other, and I'm going to move out and this, that, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
But it's the culmination of all these things when you could have just nipped it in the butt and none of this would have happened. Because 99% of the arguments that you get into are pointless. They're stupid. They're so stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely, man. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, it's funny, feelings and expressing yourself is a funny thing.
Yeah.
You do feel better after you say it, and it does. For someone who doesn't do that often, it's hard to get used to. Now I'm more used to it. I still suppress some things every now and then.
It's learning and growing, man.
But I looked at it as always
part of being a man.
That's it.
And that's actually a very good point too, because I think it's even more of a manly thing when you can talk about things like that and not have it, because people will perceive it as being weak. Oh, you're crying. You're talking about your emotions. You're like, no, I'm comfortable to talk about my emotions.
I'm
confident
as fuck who I am.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm tell you how I feel, and that shit made me cry. All right.
So exactly. I was watching a movie the other night. Last night we were watching a movie. I'm watching what was it? Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. You see that movie?
No.
It was with two Asian actors. I think actually one of them was the guy from Indiana Jones. No more parachutes. Remember that? I think he's grown up now, and then there's a very famous Asian actor. Actress. Can't remember her name. Doesn't matter. Watching this movie, and towards the end of the movie, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, you could feel it coming. I go to my wife, it's like, I'm not crying, you're crying. I'm not crying, you're crying. It's just like, but you can feel it coming, and you're like, yeah, so what? It's an emotional movie. It's a sad movie.
My whole life, I've never seen my dad. Well, now I have, but growing up, my dad was always the stoic, never cried, always calm, cool, and collected, always knew what to do. So I'm like, damn, how am I going to live up to this? Like, my dad never cracked under pressure, always had the answers. And then I remember, like, one day we were at a bar with my two brothers when I lived in Connecticut, and he was talking like Donald Trump just got elected, and he was talking about how close he is with his family and how he related it to us, and he was like he had a couple adult beverages, but
a couple belts in him there.
I mean, I remember my brothers were like, yo, Dad's fucking crying right now. Like, this is crazy. I'm like,
you're like, what?
This is like
you saw a unicorn.
A whole new world for me. I'm like, all right, he is human. He is,
holy shit.
It was crazy. It was crazy. But, he's gotten softer over the years. I'm sure when he has his first grandkid, in the next couple months, he'll get extremely soft.
Yeah.
But I understand a lot of the things that you say about suppressing feelings and thoughts and stuff like that. So it's very true. You can't do it by yourself. You'll never do it by yourself.
Right.
You always have to have some kind of outlet, whether it's a person, whether you're working out, or even if you write it down and journal. It's some way to alleviate that.
Just to get it out of your head.
100%.
Yeah.
It like you were saying, man, it'll build up. I mean, I know for a fact I did it. I let shit built up for years, since I was 13 pretty much.
Yeah.
Of everything.
And I think another important thing too is that humans are not meant to be in isolation. And I think this goes along with the camaraderie, is that there's how many people on this planet? 7 billion, 8 billion people on this planet. You're telling me that there's nobody out there that either, let's say you're alone and you're feeling lonely and depressed. There's nobody out there that's going to be your friend. There's nobody out there that can relate to you and can help you in your time. There's nobody out there that's been through it. So just ask, go someplace. Just go for a walk. We say it all the time with the cigar lounge. I'm like, listen, cigars are a great way to meet people. Cigars are a great way to relax, relieve stress, to meet with other people, to create friendships. So if you're feeling lonely, depressed, you don't know what to do, go to a cigar lounge. Even if you've never been there before, go in, ask the person, hey, I've never done this before. Yeah. Can you recommend me a cigar? Oh, no problem. Here, sit down to somebody. Next thing you know, you're going to have a conversation for 2 hours.
Oh, yeah.
I find, for me personally, I find a lot of stuff when a lot of things are building up in your brain and you start overthinking, like, once you have a thought and then you have an inkling and then it goes down and you go down a rabbit hole where this completely false scenario is going to happen. And like I said, when I lay down sometimes, I'm like, oh, fuck, if I do this, and I'm like, all right.
And you're spiraling.
And then I'm like, all right. Listen, it's not bad. There's harder things in life. You just, goes back to the mental. You just have to tell yourself that it's either not real, it's not going to happen that way, you can figure it out, you can do better. And then after 5 minutes of doing it, you're like, huh, all right, on to the next thing. I feel a lot better. What do we got to do?
Yeah.
And 90% of the shit that you think is you'll create these things that are going to happen, all these worst case scenarios. I'm like, that's never going to
even happen.
And even if it does happen, right? Like, for instance, you could be at work and it's like, I got this, I got to go meet this customer. What happens if they don't like me? What happens if they say this? What happens if they say that? It's like, okay, go through each one of those. What happens if they yell in your face? Are you going to die? Yeah. Are you? Is the end of the world going to happen? Is hell going to freeze? No, they're going to yell at you and be like, okay, and then you're going to walk out and you're like, I'm in the same position I'm in now. And that's never going to happen.
I'm never going to see that asshole again anyway. So fuck him.
You create this scenario like, oh my god, what if this happens? You're like, okay, what if that does happen? So, but the chances are that it's not how it's going to go, and it never goes that way.
I think of Long Island local Sal Fontana when he went on Americans Got Talent for the first time, and he's with the guy Big Time Tommy, and he's like, what happens if Simon says something? He's like, he's a person in a chair. What is he gonna do to you?
I'm like, big whoop.
But I'm like, that's so. You can relate that to everything. He's a person in a chair, and it's only words. And we say a lot of times, like, you don't have to allow what is coming to you, whether it's being verbal, mainly affect you. You have that power to say, hey, you're an asshole.
Yeah.
You can believe you're an asshole, or you can be like, this guy's an asshole. I'm not a fucking asshole.
Yeah, everyone has choices, man. And I always say, man, it's okay. Like, it's normal to have emotions. You're gonna have emotions.
It's chemical.
Sad, whatever the fuck it is, you can have an emotion.
It's a chemical thing in your body.
You let it turn into a feeling, that's going to be an issue, because then it's going to affect you, and you let it stay with you for a day, a week, a month, whatever it is, man.
So say that again. You said you have an emotion, but the minute you make it into a feeling,
that's when it's a problem. You know what I mean? Like, because like I said, man, I still get mad. I still fucking get pissed off, and but I can get over shit real quickly. You know what I mean? Like, same thing with being sad. It's like, all right, I wake up today, I go today. Mm-hmm. All right, now here we go. I'm going to try to be, the best I can be for the ones that need me the most today. And, the minute you, like I said, you make it a feeling, and that turns into days, into weeks, into months, whatever it is, man. It affects your decisions, whether it's business, personal life. It's going to affect you.
Yeah.
So it's all right to have an emotion, man. Just don't let it turn into that feeling.
For Go Primal,
do
you do like public speaking, or you speak to crowds of...
It's fun.
You're speaking to a crowd right now.
Yeah. Well, besides on the Burn Down podcast.
It's something I've done like through NGBN. We did like men conferences like via Zoom. I did speak at a Kiwanis dinner about a month ago or so, but it's definitely something I'd like to get into.
Yeah, I feel like you'd be good at that.
Yeah, I would love to go around and speak, whether businesses, schools, or whatever it is, man, just to be that, I don't know how to label it, maybe an inspirational speaker or whatever the fuck, because everyone says they're a motivational speaker and all that bullshit, but
not all of them have not all of them have stories.
Yeah,
just because they make $1 million, they're like, I'm a motivational speaker.
I can scream and curse and
my name's Matt Foley and I am a motivational speaker.
I think there's a difference between people who come from something to nothing in a financial sense and people who come from something to nothing in an emotional and physical sense, like yourself. Right. It drives home with a lot more people because more people can relate to feelings and being one with themselves as opposed to someone saying, hey, I made $1 million by 25 years old and this is how I did it.
Yeah,
this is people don't always relate to that. No. And because
it's not relatable. It's not the what they call it. It's more the exception than the rule, like 100%. I'm going to hear what you say, I'm going to do it, I'm going to be a millionaire.
Yeah.
No. But on my side, like it's like I'm kind of giving you the training of the mind to be like, all right, man, you can fucking be whatever you want to be. Like you can do whatever you want to do.
100%.
I'm not saying you're going to be a millionaire, but fucking, to me, like the epitome of a man, like I said, is just be the best for the ones that need you the most. And whatever
be the best for the ones that need you the most.
Yeah. Whatever that is, then that's
gotta put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah. I got a bunch of sayings I want to put on some t-shirts.
One of my favorite sayings though is what kind of relates what you're saying is, but health is wealth. So you can be a millionaire, but you can have terrible mental health. You can be physically unhealthy. You don't got shit. So your health comes first, regardless whether it's mentally or physical.
Yeah.
Because going on round 2 here, man.
You
see a lot of these. I related to like these childhood actors or these people that grew up in not usual circumstances at a young age, and then as they get older, they're like a shit show. And I'm like, how the fuck does that happen? You had the world by the balls at 10 years old, and now you're
millions of dollars, and
25 years old, you're a drug addict, and you're living on the streets, and you're beating up people. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
So
they get too rich too quick.
They don't have the right people behind them, like you said.
They're exposed to not the right people, to horrible people that are gonna prey on them and take advantage of them. And
do you have like one I wouldn't say favorite, but one impactful story where you helped somebody and they told you like, hey, I listened to you or I spoke to you and you helped me?
There's been a few that it's funny, man, because like you guys know, you probably do shows or you do stuff on social media and you have no idea who's listening or who's the people that have reached out to me are people where I'm like, I've never seen them comment on anything I ever do, and they would say like, "Oh, how much the show is helping them, or how much that post I did really helped them," or And there was even this guy, man, I can't remember what country he's from.
That's a great problem. I don't want to say problem, but that's the coolest thing. Yeah, right? I can't remember what country he's from.
Yeah,
It's like you're reaching people all over the world,
and that's just, I guess, what we, the world we live in today with social media, and it's great. And
I love that.
I ended up, doing a couple of Zoom calls with him, and just helping him out. And he said how much I helped him out mentally and get him, kind of on the path of getting in shape. He's not going to be a bodybuilder. He's not going to have a six pack, but, comes down to be the best for the ones that need you the most, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
So that one kind of really stuck out. And that was, a couple of years ago when I first started doing everything. So that one kind of always stuck out just because it was, like I said, I don't even know what country the guy was from, and he spoke English. Obviously, he had an accent, but it was pretty cool.
Yeah, just someone picked you to help them.
Yeah.
So is that primarily what you're doing with Go Primal? Is coaching and helping those that are battling addictions and struggling with mental health?
Yeah, it's something that, obviously, like, we have the apparel. So I think wanted to get away from being like, I'm an apparel brand. What I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not, I think it's just more like, and I did have some coaching where I did help some people one-on-one. But now I think I'd like to, like I said, branch out more into the speaking engagements and that route. But, I've had, actually, it's funny. I had an event at a cigar lounge in Hicksville. I call GP Nation. Be a part of
what's
GP
cigar
Nation.
lounge?
Moms and
yeah. I know Moms in Hicksville.
Sam, the guy Sam, he's a pretty cool guy. I used to go in there a lot because just where I in between jobs, I would always stop there and start talking to him. And then, ended up having, it was like 11 or 12 guys maybe. We just kind of hanging out, bullshitting, and so I think I would love to, keep that going where I develop a community here on Long Island, like I said, called GP Nation, and just really focusing on helping guys, man.
No doubt.
I love it, dude. I mean, Lord knows that we need a lot more of that and some positive mental attitude and the good mental health because
you're really a more of the smaller statistic of people that have dealt with mental health and addiction that don't get out of it.
Yeah.
The majority of the people don't have that strength to pull themselves out of it. And we talk about it all the time with the book. I don't know if you ever read Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, but it's all about the positive atoms and the negative atoms and what do they call them? The drifters, right?
They call them the drifters. So
the drifters he relates them as people who. So the book is Outwitting the Devil. It's basically he sits down with the devil and he asks him, has an interview with him, and he asks him every single question you can think of, and he gives you all the answers. And he says, the drifters are the people are 98% of the world, which I control. I can't control the people that don't believe in me, that believe in themselves, that can do it, that have some kind of positive attitude. But 98% of the world is mine because a lot of negativity out there between poverty and all this stuff. And that's why I focus my strength. But if you have the mindset, if you have the willpower to break yourself out of that rhythm, I have no control over you.
Yeah.
And he talks about how the devil, a lot of people portray, they see the devil as in this red horned tail, sharp, long tail figure, right, with a pitchfork and black wings, right? And he goes, that's not what the devil is. He goes, the devil is all of the negative feelings that I can instill on people. He goes, and the number one being fear. He goes, I can control your mind through fear. He goes, I can implant fear into your mind and prevent you from doing anything, whether it's fear of failure or fear of poverty, or even a fear of neglect or fear of rejection. He goes, whatever the fear is, he goes, I can implant this little feeling, a little emotion into your thought into your brain and prevent you from doing anything. And then the more that I do that, he goes, I make you into a drifter, which means you just drift through life, never amounting to anything because you're afraid to do it. He goes, and then there's a few other negative emotions, whether it be anger or whether it be jealousy, all 7 deadly sins.
Yeah.
He goes, I can just implant into your brain one of these and prevent you from doing anything. He goes, but there's the 2% that overcome that, and they don't let that control them. They don't let fear stop them from doing these certain things. And those are the 2% that amount to to strive to and become great, is because they don't allow fear to control them.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic book, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill.
So congratulations. It sounds like you're part of that 2%.
Yeah. Sounds like, and I think it's, it's funny you say that because I think you're going to have that. And what I do is, and I use that because my biggest fear right now is not being around for my boys, and I use that to, to push me to be my best because I know like what's going to not keep me around if I touch a drink again. What's not going to, be a good father to my kids is if I don't watch what I eat, if I don't stay healthy. I'm going to go into that mental, path of fucking hating myself again. So I use that fear to my advantage, and
that's what you gotta do.
Yeah. So, and that's, and then I use, I always say I run on fear and faith, because then faith is that part where, man, there's shit that's just going to happen that you can't control, and that's just the reality of it.
And there's no sense in getting all worked up. Right. You can't control.
So I just, use my faith. I pray to God every day to give me the strength to be my best, to give me the strength to get through the day, to protect my family and stuff like that. So, I basically am running on fear and faith. I'm going to use it to my advantage, man. Fuck the devil,
I love it. I love it.
Hell yeah,
and
brother.
And what's the other side of it. Yeah. Right. So like you probably look at yourself in the mirror and you love the person that you're seeing in the mirror. Right. But you know both sides. Like, listen, I can either...
Which is very unique.
You're like, today,
both sides.
It's one of those things that keeps going. Because, like, listen, I know that if I stop, I know where I'm going to end.
I know where I'm going.
I know, and I hated that guy. I hate that. I never want to feel that again.
Yeah.
So I'm stopped counting the days. This is me now. This is me. This is who I am. This is what I do each and every day. And I know that if I slip up, I'm right back there.
Yeah. And I'd say that's more of an advantage, I think, to know.
I
know where the 100%. A lot of people don't know if they don't do what they are supposed to do, where it will lead them. But like your situation, you know where the road leads, and you know not to go down that path. Yeah. So that's definitely an advantage.
It's making meaning of the things that happen, And I just was never a fan of people with, everything happens for a reason, And I used to get fucking pissed off. So like, what the fuck was the reason my dad died? What was the fuck, I would just be pissed off all the time hearing that. And I think it was like, it's just, you just got to switch that up a little bit. And I always say, like, I don't know why things happen, but you just have to make meaning of the things.
There's a lesson in everything.
Yeah.
There's a lesson in everything.
Whether it's a bad thing or a good thing, man, you make meaning of it, And I remember I had a guest on my show in the early days. He had an 8-year-old son that died. And I was just like, man, thinking like, how the fuck do you make meaning of that? Yeah. And he said he struggled for a good year where he was homeless. He wanted to give up. He didn't give a shit about anything, contemplate the suicide. And now he helps people that are going through the same shit, and that's the meaning he had to make out of it, and that, I think that's just what you have to do in life.
Amen, brother. I mean, you got to make the meaning out of everything.
Yeah.
You can either let it break you down and let it just completely destroy you, or you can try to learn a lesson from it, try to make the most of it. It's you got to play the hand that you're dealt.
Yeah.
Some people get dealt a shitty hand, but just like in poker, I've seen some people win with the absolute garbage.
Yeah. they acted as if, and they fucking won, man.
They figure out a way to win with what they're dealt with.
Yeah.
There's always a better path, and there's always a path, like you said. It's the decisions you make.
Yeah, it's always a choice, man. Always a choice.
Amen, brother. Amen.
I love it. Well, we're hour and 20.
There we go.
Oh, nice.
Just like that.
Nice.
Just like we said.
That did go quick,
right?
Hour and 20, man.
So usually towards the end of the podcast, we kind of just like to give you the red carpet where you can plug away and tell people where they can find you, any events or any projects that you're working on that you can tell people to expect to look out for. So, Chris, please, the floor is yours.
I'm pretty easy to find. Instagram is Chris Fontana GP, as in Go Primal. GoPrimalUSA.com. You can find the apparel. Yeah, the nice hoodie that I got on. LinkedIn, Chris Fontana, Facebook, Chris Fontana. We got, NGBN.TV. You can find my show, The Primal Mindset. We actually have a good thing.
And what's that on? What is NGBT on?
NGBN.TV is the website. Or you can actually download the free app on Roku, Android devices, Amazon Fire. We're waiting on Apple because they're a pain in the ass. So.
Yeah, they take the longest.
Yeah, so we're waiting on that. Eventually, it's going to be pretty much all devices. There's some good things with NGBN in April. They're having a 2-hour live course on I think like CPR, and then also how to look for signs of mental health with men and to help them with suicide and stuff like that. So you can actually sign up for that on the website.
And how often is your show?
It's going to be right now every 2 weeks, dropping on Sundays. Eventually I will go to every week, but yeah, every 2 weeks the Primal Mindset will be on Sunday mornings. So new show.
Beautiful.
I love it.
Well, Chris, you have an amazing story. We're really glad you were able to talk about it on our podcast. It's very inspirational, not only to us, but all the people that are watching and listening. And, we only wish you the best. The journey's only begun in my eyes. So, again, thank you for coming on, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, guys. It was good.
Well, we're drinking water, so we can't really cheers with it, but our typical send-off, I'll let Eric say it. But before we do that, if you like this episode, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell, even though nobody ever hits the bell. But again, check out Chris Fontana, all his platforms, okay? The Primal Mindset Show, Go Primal, hashtag GP Nation, and what
is the saying again? We wake up
today, we go today.
We wake up today, we go today, everybody.
Yep.
So thank you again, Chris. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. Cheers, chin chin, and sal.